Hey guys, it's Choco the Chocobo here, and in today's episode we're going to be talking about attributes. In particular, we're going to be talking about what attributes are, and then we're going to be talking about the actual attributes column in the shop, because this is part of the Dota 2 Basics item tutorial. So that is what we'll be doing, and let's hop right into it. So, attributes. In Dota you have these three attributes: strength, agility, intelligence, and each hero has a primary one, and we'll talk about what that does. But basically, these stats can be gained by items through leveling up your hero, and then from leveling up your hero, but then using that point into stats, which you can do whenever it says like level up and stuff. You can click on it and then click on the box here, or hitting Control U, I believe it is. But yeah, so those are the main ways to get stats. I don't think you can get them any other way. Let me revise that, but basically those are the main ways of getting stat points. So what does each stat point do? Well, your primary attribute, regardless of what it is, whenever you invest into that stat point, you get 1 point of damage. Doesn't sound like much, but whenever you start building into like really big items late game, they'll start building up into actual decent amounts of damage. But for strength heroes, you know, like alchemists, lycanthrope, stuff like that, they tend to be bulky, right? And that's because strength, what it does is it builds into your health points, it builds into your HP regen, although a very, very minor part. And you know, it makes them bulkier. You know, it's something that builds up your health point pool, and that's pretty much it. Hit point pool. LOL. Agility is a little bit different. You know, this is for heroes like Clinks, Orana, Templar Assassin, stuff like that. They every 7 points you get into it, so like 7 points you would have 1 point of armor that's gained, and for 14 points would be 2. And I think that if you go like, let's say 15, you still go to 2. You round down. That's the rule of thumb I go by. I definitely wouldn't round up because that can probably screw you up a little bit. But every 7 points, you get 1 point of armor as well as getting 1 attack speed. So 1 attack speed as a reference point, I would buy Gloves with Haste on your hero and see what 15 attack speed feels like. So that's over here.
Your bottom tower
and you'll get a feel for, okay, that's what 1 agility roughly does. You won't feel 1 agility probably, but you will feel, let's say, 10. You'll definitely attack faster. It's very important. You can actually see what your attack speed is here. So very, very important. You start off with 159 as Alchemist. Well, that's not true. You get a lot less than that. But you start off with like, I don't know, probably like 100 or so. And you kind of build up from there. So that's attack speed, that's agility. And then we go right into intelligence. This is for heroes like Skywrath Mage, Invoker, Storm Spirit. You know, the caster types. It builds into your intelligence pool, which is your mana pool. Call it intelligence pool because it's an old habit. And it also goes into your MP regen. Now, problem with mana regen, right? Very similar to HP regen, it's very low. And because of the way that it works, we'll get into this later, but basically your mana regen is very unlikely to stand on its own unless you have some extra help from like Ring of Vassal, stuff like that, because these things tend to be percentage based. So something to keep in mind, but basically, you know, strength for bulkiness, agility for attack speed and maybe armor, intelligence for your mana pool and kind of building that up. So let's talk about items, right? In the attributes column, you have 5 tiers of items in my world. You have tier 1, which is just the Ironwood branch. It's in a tier of its own, it's special. We'll talk about why in a minute here. You have tier 2, which goes from Gauntlets of Strength all the way down to the Circlet. You have tier 3, which is Belt of Strength down to the Robe of Magi. And then you have tier 4, which is Ogre Club, all the way down to the Ultimate Orb. Now, I think I said 4. I said 5, but there's 4 tiers. So let's get right into it. The Ironwood branch is in tier 1 because it is the lowest amount of gain, but the lowest cost as well. And if you do like kind of per point to per gold spent, you'll find that the Iron branch is actually the best item you can get in the game. You could have like a billion inventory slots. This is what you would spam all those slots with because you would get the best bang for your buck. That said, it occupies a lot of space for only giving you 1 attribute point. So you won't see this in late game very often, if at all. I would be very surprised if you did. But it's very handy, right? Because at the beginning, when you only have 600 gold, you may have like the odd off like 53 gold or like 100 gold, and you can spend this to give yourself a little bit of a boost. Because remember, it's like, what, 19 HP points? So it's very handy to kind of take a couple of Ironwood branches at the beginning. You'll see it oftentimes in starting items because it fills out your inventory slots pretty well. It builds into a magic wand, right? and that can be helpful. It also builds into the buckler and headdress, which is very common in kind of like more passive or defensive supporting, as well as just kind of filling out kind of your roster's ability to kind of go into a fight. So that's very important. Now, I should add as a note here, whenever you get attribute items, the general goal is with tier 1, you may be building it into stuff, fine. In tier 2, you are generally not looking to build it into something significant, but once you start passing tier 2 and you go into tier 3 and 4, you're looking to build something later on down the line. Like you can actually keep these items and keep on using them. Very, very important. So anyways, tier 2, right? In tier 2, you are introduced to the first different kinds of like specialization for items. The gauntlets of strength gives you +3 strength, and then agility slippers gives you 3 agility. The mounts level intelligence gives you 3 intelligence. It's very simple, very straightforward. They only give you 3 of that particular stat. The circlet is the souped up version of the Ironwood branch, and it gives you 2 to all stat points, but you know, you can do the math for yourself. 2 stat points for 185 is significantly worse than getting the Ironwood branch. Now that said, this can be very helpful because it builds into kind of like these bulkier items, right? The bracer, the wraith band, the null talisman. This was revised, so for the really old Dota players, you'll actually be like, wait a minute, what? They no longer give you the extra like 3 in the primary stat as the bonus for building into a null talisman and stuff like that. These things stop, and they give you 3 damage in addition to it. So you'll gain like 1 stat point to everything, and then an extra stat point in your primary if you build it into the evolve or the upgraded form of your equipment. So you should be a little bit careful about that. But these can generally be used earlier on and kind of subsidize, especially for intelligence heroes, like increase your mana pool, give you an HP pool that's a little bit larger so it can be a little bit more of a bully, or you know, just for slippers of agility, getting your attack speed up. It's very handy. So keep that in mind. Generally would recommend not building it out too much. You can see all the things you can build it into here. Not very much. I guess you can build a Dagon out of this, but still. Moving on for belts of strength. So I'm not going to talk about all the recipes and kind of what they build into, because there's just way too much here. But whenever you get into tier 3, you're talking about items that give you 6 intelligence or 6 stat points for a specialized thing. There is no version of the circlet ability here. Some people treat the circlet as that, but I don't agree with that. The belt of strength down to the robe of magi, 6 stat points. All of them build into crazy stuff. Like you can get anything from Basher to Yasha. It's crazy. So be familiar with these items. They'll cost 450 gold. Very important to know. And you'll be going probably into these set of items more often than not. Now, whenever we get into tier 4, the final tier, there is a weird thing here, which is the price jump. So you have, you know, Ogre Club down to the Staff of Wizardry is 1,000, but the Ultimate Orb costs you 2.1k. $10 stats, and this is $10 stats, and this is the only tier which does this, where you actually get the same exact amount in your kind of all-rounder stat, right? Because the circlet gave you 1 less and stuff like that. So very, very important, because that Ultimate Orb is used for like really bulky items, right? Scythe of Eyes is usually the end game for intelligence heroes. Lincoln's for tankier heroes. Manta for damage agility heroes, I guess. And then I guess you can put on whatever, but the Scotty is also really great for almost any hero these days, but we'll see. But bear that in mind. So this gives you a fair bit for your buck, and most notably out of this is this guy right here, Black King Bar. I said I wouldn't talk about recipes, but this is really important, and I'm going to talk about Aghanim Scepter as well. But if you get the Ogre Club and you build into BKB, BKB is probably the best item in the game in terms of a usable item. Not consumable, but a usable item. It makes you go match commune. It's great. It's fantastic. I'll talk about it later when I talk about the upgrades stuff, which is a whole different page of items here. My God. But yeah, BKB, Ogre Club, good stuff. Aghanim Scepter, which upgrades your ult, is also a really important thing. It requires 1 of each of these, so Staff of Wizardry, Ogre Club, and a Blade of Alacrity, as well as a point booster from the Secret Shop, which is located here. And, you know, that's a very important thing to keep in mind, because this will kind of automatically take care of itself and pay off dividends in the future. So that's it for the attributes section of this tutorial basics thing, please let me know if you want me to kind of redo this below. I know it's a little bit late or late slash early for me, so I'm a little bit crazed and stuff, but please do let me know what you think below. If you want me to redo it, I'll be happy to do so for you guys. But just, keep in mind all the things about attributes as you're playing. If you're new to the game, you'll kind of get into the swing of things right away, especially you'll start noticing once you're conscious of it, so it's great to know. But other than that, you should be good to go for attributes. So have a great day, guys.